Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Social. So excited to have you here. We are also excited to have back to the show CTV science and technology specialist, the one and only Batman, Dan Riskin.
Hi there.
So glad to have you here. All right, so let's dive into our first topic. Australia is cracking down on social media for kids under 16. A new law, a world first, is in the works that'll make platforms including TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, X, and Instagram liable for fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars if they fail to prevent children under 16 from obtaining accounts. They're also testing out an age verification system that could use biometrics or government ID to enforce the age cutoff. So is this the way to protect our kids? Because we've had a lot of conversations as how we're going to protect our children from all the social media and the effect it's having on their mental health. What do you guys think?
I've got kids. They're not allowed to use social media. My 13-year-old is not allowed to be on social media. We're thinking 16 maybe for a cutoff. So this fits right with what we're doing in our house. And if that's what I think is good for my kids, why would I want any different for anybody else?
How are you planning on enforcing that? It's great. It's great. I'm just curious because I think a lot of parents say this and then they fall to pressure.
Yeah.
So how are you enforcing it? And what's been the response like?
It's very difficult because you want to give them more and more freedom, right? For us, the big problem was just trying to get a music player that was not a phone for our kids, right? They want to listen to music, but it has to be a phone. That's the only way you can play Spotify or Apple Music. And so that was sort of the beginning. But you know, with parental controls, you can control what apps they have, and also just lots of conversations. So it's not like mom and dad are making choices here and you're just going to live with it. It's here's why social media is so dangerous, and here's why I'm scared about it for me. Here's why I struggle with it. I want something better for you. And listen, kids, there's a paper that came out like a month ago that shows that kids' moods are driven by social media 44% more than us. And if you think about what your experience is like and how hard it is to pill yourself up after you see something on Instagram that you feel like, oh, I wish I'd been there. I wish I'd been at that party. For kids, it is way worse.
Yeah.
And so you've got to help them out. So this is really about protecting kids.
It's about,
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen to protecting kids. You know, when I looked at how was it that age 13 became the cutoff age of what they call internet adulthood, and we would think that this is why we need to have government, like Australia is doing, getting ahead of this, because the cat was let out of the bag too quick before anybody knew what they were doing. So 13 is supposedly the cutoff age that companies like Meta say you have to be 13 or older on paper to use our sites. But all the kids get around it because that's why you have little ones on TikTok and Instagram. And the reason why it's 13 is not because someone said that's an age where they're smart. It's because lobby companies who have e-commerce companies lobbied US Congress to lower the age from what was first proposed, which was 18. So my bottom line here is we let technology get out of the barn before we knew what it could do. We now see what it can do, and it's destroying our children's mental health, physical health, porn, like you just name the list. And that is not to say that there aren't some advantages. We learned during COVID it was the way to connect, but it's all about opportunity risk. You have benefits and you have risks. And what are we learning? Those risks are destroying the benefits. So I'm gonna try to take a page out of your book because my daughter's 10. She's not asking hard, but I've tried to keep the moms in the mom group and saying, let's all keep our kids off of this together. Let's try.
Let me be the skeptic here, because let's talk about your kids they're not on yet. They're not using it. So it's not part of their world. This is not how they connect with peers or find a date or, you know, find out what's going on. What do you do with the kids who this is all that they know? And now there's a new law that says, hey, you can't do this anymore.
Like a 17-year-old.
A 17-year-old or 16-year-old who's hearing this.
It'll be challenging.
Because I feel like those kids are going to be like, that's nice and it sounds great in Parliament, but what about the reality? Are those kids actually going to listen, or are they getting together and saying, let's find a way around this because there's no way I'm giving up my Instagram?
Here's the thing. Okay, so first of all, Messenger kids would still be allowed under this, so kids can still talk to each other. YouTube is still allowed, which I actually find a bit strange because if you're a kid who's under the age of 16 and you're creating a YouTube video, what happens underneath that? Comments, which is socializing. So there's some things, fine points that need to be figured out here. Also allowed is, like, video games are not being restricted. And for me, that's one of the concerns that I have as a parent. There's that whole thing, a lot of games are being designed specifically, almost like as a precursor to gambling for kids to, like, they get to a certain level and they cannot cannot stop until they get to the next level, until the next level. That to me is also wreaking havoc. I've seen that with my son. For me, what I'm trying to do to talk to my child about this is I explain it like this. I say, you know when cars were first invented, Jaya? They just let people drive around. Didn't matter what age you were, you didn't need a license. There were no
seatbelts?
No seatbelts, no traffic lights.
No
And guess
airbags.
what? People died. And after enough people just died or fell apart or whatever, they decided, maybe we need to invent a couple things. Safety. I was like, you're those kids right now.
Yes.
And I say it kind of jokingly, but it's that serious to me. It clicks for him.
Does Jaya get it?
He does get it.
Okay.
And I think this is a great way to explain to even kids who are older. It's like they're learning stuff now. There is evidence. We need to protect you now.
It's kind of like, but here's the thing, it's kind of like smoking. But I hear what you're saying, but it's kind of like smoking, where it's like people know smoking's bad, but there are people who started a long time ago, they're like, I know it's bad, but I can't stop.
You're not gonna get
'Cause this is-
everyone.
you're definitely not gonna get
Well,
it.
you're not going to get everyone, but it's different if my mom says I can't go on social media and all my friends are still on social media, as opposed to the government says social media is gone. Now, none of my friends are on social media. I'm not missing anything anymore.
Yeah,
So I think
as a
it's a lot better that way.
parent, it's much easier to say to my daughter, it's illegal.
Yes.
So no. I don't want to go to jail.
I say for now, I think that in the households where there's children who are maybe 17, 12, and 9, it's going to be a little bit more challenging because one's allowed to and the other 2 aren't, and they're one room away.
We have to move on to the next topic, but when you ask teenagers today, what is the thing that is making your life the most challenging in terms of your mental health? They all say social media. They know it's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next topic. Speaking of the wave of the future, Load the Dishwasher is about to take on a whole new meaning because Japanese newspapers are reporting that this human dishwashing machine is in the works. This is meant to wash and dry you within 15 minutes. Who's in? Who's out?
Okay, it does look a lot like the sleeping pods from Alien. Does anyone?
Oh, yes.
Listen, they're also saying that this would
doesn't
help
end well.
for stress and relaxation, that this would sort of scan the person's body and like it sounds like a wellness retreat in a way. And I just want to point out that this is nothing new. I feel like I'm just going to nerd out for a moment, maybe for you.
Bring it.
But a long time ago, an inventor named Wilhelm Reich, he invented a bunch of very odd things, including something called an orgone accumulator. And this is what it looked like. And he would get people to go inside, and he claimed that it would help with all kinds of things, like mental health, cure cancers, also help with better orgasms. I kid you not. And so
What's in it?
While you're in there?
While you're in there, it can, honestly, do a deep dive on this orgone accumulator machine.
Wow.
But all I can say is that like people are inventing stuff like this all the time, and I would try it. Would you not try it?
Yeah.
See what happens?
I would try it.
You would try it.
Oh, sign me up. So, I mean, this reminds me a little bit of Japanese toilets.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I had never used a Japanese toilet, and so I said, I don't need a crazy toilet that sprays water and is heated and all these things. I have toilets that I know perfectly well, and they work fine. Then I went to Japan, and I was like, I should have been more open-minded.
Well, tell us about your experience, Dan. What changed your
It was
mind?
lovely. It was lovely. And I have to say, it was a real highlight of the trip, and I learned a lot of things. So, if this weird thing that looks like it's from the movie Alien is going to bring any new experiences, I'm open to them now.
It's so funny because we just redid our bathroom and my husband got one of those Japanese toilets and I thought, what a waste of our money, Ryan. We work hard for our money. We don't need this toilet. And then I sat on it. It was spiritual.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I think this machine is ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. We are part of this convenience culture where we're so lazy, we can't even pick up a loofah and scrub ourselves. Okay, we don't do loofahs anymore. You have to watch yesterday's show. You'll catch the reference.
Yeah.
But I just think that we have gotten so lazy, and this is not the stress part. If you are stressed, buying a multi-million-dollar bathtub like that is not going to be the fix. Go out in nature, it's free. So I just think this is an absolute waste of money, and let's actually pick up and start taking care of ourselves again.
I just have to quickly say, I'm going to bring this to be a bit more serious. This is not for me, but in the last few months of my dad's life, I was bathing my father. And sorry, I didn't mean to get a little emotional there, but if this could help him and other people, because it really opened my eyes. There are a lot of people who can't just do something very simple. We all just hop in the shower and we don't think about it. But when you lose the ability to do that, you also lose a bit of your dignity. And I'd see after the shower how much better he would feel in that joy. So I feel like if nursing homes and hospitals could have this so that patients wouldn't have to wait for that very busy, overworked nurse to come and give them a bath, but instead they could just get them in there, turn it on and be like, okay, I'll come back in 15 minutes and set that up in a bunch of rooms, I think it'd be a lot better for a lot more people. So, like that idea.
So the Today Show has a list of restaurants that are open on American Thanksgiving for those who just don't feel like cooking. So would you ever ditch the traditions to go out to eat over the holidays?
A lot of jumping in. Audience?
There's a lot of people are going like this in the
Listen,
audience.
hosting dinners is a highly overrated experience. As someone who's done it before, let's be real about all the prep that has to be done, the grocery shopping. God forbid you forget something, then you got to go back to the grocery store, but you don't have time for that because you got to figure out what needs to go in the oven at this time and what needs to be sauteed at this time. And it's just so much work, and we're not even touching the cleanup. I would gladly pick up the tab for my family to be together at a restaurant and everybody has a good time and no one's running around and we're not telling the host of the party, have a seat. Relax. I would love for that person to not have to worry about that. And everybody just leaves and it's, you know, we pay, we leave a nice tip, and then we just go about our business.
Oh, no.
The importance of being together.
Oh, my God. We're over here going, oh, my gosh.
You know why? 'Cause
You know,
you've
here's the
never
thing.
cooked
So
the
let me
entire dinner, that's why.
let me have my piece here. And I think my piece is what I am hearing for sure, which we see and completely acknowledge, is that women, unfortunately, are carrying all the stress of the holidays, no matter what holidays. So that we acknowledge is a problem. However, is the fix now going to a restaurant? And here's why I say no. You can go to a restaurant any day of the year, okay? That's number one. And number two, we are all running around like chickens with our heads cut off. We are in the busy hustle culture, and there is something that actually forces us, if it's a holiday, to finally come together. It's messy, it's noisy, but you know what? I would rather look forward to the fact that I can sit, I don't have to be rushed out of my seat by a restaurant owner or the person who's serving me.
We could get it catered
and
at the
also,
house.
hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done. Listen, I have nothing against restaurants, but we're talking about like Christmas Day. It is meant for people to be together. Then the kids can run around, you can wear whatever you want, and the whole point is togetherness. And so to me, the other part of this is I feel for the person who's working in the back cooking that meal. Don't they deserve a day off with their family? So to me, any other day of the year, I love restaurants, but that day, keep it sacred.
You're feeling like what? What side are you on this debate?
One of my best Christmas meals, I was a grad student and I was visiting with, anyway, we were away from home. And so my friend and I ended up having our Christmas lunch, like Christmas Day, at a Husky gas station on the side of the highway because we were making the drive back from Toronto to Ithaca, where we lived.
What did you eat at a Husky?
I don't remember what I ate, but I remember who I was with, and I remember it was lovely.
Okay.
And I remember that we had a great conversation, and I will always remember that that was a Christmas meal that we had at a Husky gas station.
Okay.
Because it's about being together.
It was about being together. And you know what? We weren't the only people there. There was a family of 12 at Husky, and they had said, we're not going to do all the hassle. We're going to go to Husky where it's going to be pretty economical, but we're all going to be together. And they had their Christmas meal at Husky.
God, listen,
we were just like, they've got to figure it out.
Would you want to go to the Husky every year? Like part of
You don't have to go every year. That's the whole point, is let the tradition go. Like, let go of it. Just be together.
Be more open to it.
I understand that. This came up this year at Thanksgiving. My sister had made the suggestion of like, why don't we just make a stew this year or a chili, like to make things easier on everybody and to not deal with the cleanup. And I was like, oh, no, because for me, it's like the turkey and the smells and the cooking.
Quick question, do you cook? Have you ever cooked the entire dinner?
I don't cook the entire dinner. We all take a part of it and we all do the cleanup together. Like, so I took over the cleanup for the most part this year, and we each have a couple of dishes that we do. And I was like, I was willing to. I was like, I will do the whole thing. Because sometimes I'm done with talking to people. Sometimes I just want to retreat to the kitchen as well and just be alone. I don't know. Listen, no one should do things if they, like, there's a tipping point where it becomes too much work, and you're absolutely right. The people are more important. But we have traditions for a reason. And I think we think about this, I'm thinking about my kid and like the experience and the memories that I have growing up. And that was part of the love of those important holidays. We can't get rid of all that and go to restaurants, guys. Let's not that
I would rather eat at a Husky than ever cook a bird that takes 8 hours again in life. All right, let's move on to our next topic. All right, buckle up, everyone. A new survey reveals that nearly half of men believe that they can competently land a plane in an emergency. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Okay. The women surveyed were more grounded. Only 20% felt that they could do the same. So who here thinks that they can land a plane? I'm not gonna look at Dan yet. Ladies, who here? No. Dan?
Absolutely.
Of course you said that.
Absolutely, I could land an airplane. Absolutely. You know, I may not live, but it will be on the ground when I'm done. There's no question.
Well, they did say that it would come with guidance with air traffic control.
Sure, they'd walk you through it.
Right?
So I once went, I have a friend, he's passed away now, but I have a friend, and when he was in his 80s, he took me for a flight. He was a pilot. He'd flown in the war. His name was Lou, and he took me up in the plane, and we were flying up there, and he said, now I know what you're thinking, Dan. What if this old guy kicks the bucket? What do you do? And then he walked me through it. He said, here's what you do. You say, Mayday, 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 and then you tell the control tower, and they're going to put another airplane up next to you. Now, he may have made that whole thing up, but I felt very fine. I was like, it's going to be... But he told me, like, they're going to tell you what to do, and you're going to land, and it's going to be totally fine. And I was like, okay, I got this.
I love that he brought that up while you guys were mid-flight.
Yeah.
Could have told you about that,
Yeah,
you know.
I feel like this is like, listen, I think I could confidently land a plane also very, very well. You would want me in the cockpit, trust me. And the reason why is I think this is part of a metaphor for how we look at women and men in positions of power in all of our culture. I think we believe that certain people by gender can do something, and by gender we can't. And ladies, I'm here to tell you, you absolutely can. So the way that I was raised is that the first thing I started driving at 7 or 8 years old was a tractor, and then I learned ATVs and snowmobiles and cars, and I learned how to drive everything. You know why? Because my parents didn't have any boys. And so you know what? On the farm, guess what? The kids have to work. We had to drive everything.
But the
I have
panel
all
of a-
confidence.
of
It's
an
not about the
airplane.
panel. No, it's not about that. It's about confidence. And what I think is happening here is there's a confidence gap. There's not a skills gap. You can drive
I
your
agree with
car.
that.
You can land a plane, ladies.
Well, you know
So
what?
to me, it's the confidence of knowing, do you believe that you can do it, or do you believe he can do it better? And I think this is a
I believe you bring up a
confidence
good
gap.
point, because I think this is an important message for women, but also for the women who are raising boys and girls under the same roof, to talk to your girls the same way you talk to your boys. I think the reason why men have so much confidence is because their parents give them that confidence and the freedom to fail, make mistakes, and girls
But it's
were
not
raised
just
very
talking, it's
differently.
also about doing, because if anybody in the room growing up, if you had a son or a brother, who is dad teaching how to change a tire?
And that's
who is
you're making a
dad
good point,
teaching
though.
how to, like, change oil? It's beyond talking, it's doing. I have all confidence. Give me a
I couldn't do it.
motorcycle.
I'm
I'll
just
do
gonna put it out
you know?
there. I couldn't do it.
think
I
you-
don't want to do it. You would not, and I can tell
think you
because
could.
Yeah, I think you could.
You know why?
No,
Because
If
you're
you're out
really
there-
calm.
I will
You
explain
You're
to you
calm
why
under
I would
pressure.
not do
I'm with you
it.
on this one. I'm with you on this one,
I
sister.
have
She's-
been. Here's an example of when I'm playing a video game. I know that it's not real. I know I'm an avatar. I know that nothing can harm me. It's literally, I will go into full panic attack mode if some kind of beast monster comes around and is like, invading my space. Whereas Jason is just like what you're describing. This is a personality thing. I'm not going to gender it. My personality is such that I will collapse under pressure. So I will do my
please.
best, and I'd like to say that maybe there's an exception to the rule that suddenly I'd pull it all together in that moment.
I think you
But for the
would.
most
You
part,
would.
I don't want to
Yeah.
be overconfident.
I
I don't
think
want
you
to
would.
land
What
the
would
plane.
change that?
That's
If
all.
Jaya was on the plane, that would change your...
Okay, fine. Maybe I could do it if Jaya's on the plane. I might be able to. Maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
She's gonna land it.
Yeah. So Dan Riskin, not only our guest co-host today, but he also has an awesome newsletter, and it's called The Bat Signal. And in your latest newsletter, you looked into whether women can be mansplainers. So explain mansplaining to our mostly female audience, just for a second.
I can't wait for this.
And then,
Land
also,
this
how did
plane.
you also come to this conclusion? Okay,
Yeah.
so what is mansplaining?
I'd feel better about landing an airplane that's crashed than trying to mansplain to an audience mostly women. So mansplaining is when you were not asked for the information and you give it anyway, and you give really obvious information, and you tell people what to do. And you're not listening to them. And I'm an expert on this, obviously. If a man is asking lots of questions, they're not mansplaining. So what do you think about this topic is what I'm asking you. No,
Oh, yeah.
but it's
So like if you get curious, then suddenly you're
well,
not
so
mansplaining.
if somebody comes to you and says, I'm having a problem, there are two ways you can address that. You can either say, tell me about your problem, and here's some coffee, and tell me what you're feeling. Or you can say, I got this. Here's what you need to do.
Right.
Men tend to do the second one. And honestly, I was reading this scientific paper, and I was like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. And then my wife came into my office, and she said, you know what, I had this really frustrating interaction at work. And I was like, here's what, oh wait.
Okay. Dan, so in your newsletter, you asked, can women mansplain?
So the scientific study they did was to see whether it really is like specific to men. So they had a whole bunch of women, and they asked them to go through, like, read these different scripts, and imagine you're telling somebody about a problem you have at work, and imagine they say this, or imagine they say that, and they try to work. Imagine it's a man who says this, or imagine it's a man who says that, or
Okay.
imagine it's a woman who says this.
What did they find?
What they found is that if women want to, they can mansplain just as well as a man can. Thank you very much. It has the same detrimental emotional effect as mansplaining done by a man.
Yeah.
So when you get mansplained to, it makes you feel worse about yourself. It makes you feel less power, and it makes you not like the person who's mansplaining.
Yeah.
That's apparently, I'm learning, what happens. But when women do that, it has the same effect, but women just don't tend to do it as much as men do. Does this ring true for you?
I mean, no, I'm definitely guilty of mansplaining, but I wouldn't call it mansplaining. I think there's a female equivalent. I think it's called female chauvinism. And this is not my idea. It's not my idea. Anne-Marie Slaughter, who was on our show many years ago, she wrote a book called Unfinished Business. And she said, in the realm of domesticity, which is often still women in the household, she said, when somebody, for example, your husband comes up and says, you know, I'm going to do the dishes, and then he starts doing the dishes, and then you do, that's how you do dishes?
Uh-oh.
And the idea of explaining to him, you don't know how to do it as well as I do, and let me show you, she called that female chauvinism.
Okay,
she said that's on us.
Jason does that to me, by the way. He
does?
With the
Dishes?
with the dishwasher. He's like, you don't know how to do this the way that like is properly. And I'm like, I'm not a proper lady. Like, of course I don't know how to do it. I'm not proper at all. I feel like women, what do you call it then when women do it to women? You
Still,
feel
maybe
it's not
still?
chauvinism. I just think it's like sometimes people can be patronizing. Some people can assume that they know most. Some people have the best of intentions. This is where I'm like curious about teasing this out, because where do we draw the line between someone just actually being quite knowledgeable about something and seeing that someone's struggling and it's being like,
and then being a know-it-all.
or being a know-it-all.
Right.
Where's that line?
I feel like, don't get mad at me, but wives and moms do this the most. I feel like they're always the ones who are telling people what to do, but I don't think it's their fault. I think this is the man's fault, because a lot of men have weaponized incompetence where they act like they can't do something, so it trips a woman into thinking every time she approaches, she's like, no, he does not know how to do it, so I gotta explain how to do it, I gotta talk to the kids because they don't know how to do it. And then they start talking to everybody in their life like they don't know how to do things, because that is their existence every single day. So I'm still blaming the men with my female explaining.
I will say, on behalf of men, I think you're right. I think we're,
good answer.
I think we sometimes play it a little bit dumb.
A little bit.
Right. So, Dan, I want to let everybody know we started talking about your newsletter, and I want the viewers to know that your weekly science newsletter is also free.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Bat Signal.
So cool.
It's called The Bat Signal. It comes out once a week, and it's just funny science stories, interesting science stories, things that you're wanting to know that your friends don't know. Sometimes it's a big, huge expose on Uranus. Sometimes it's something about a weird bat. I meant the planet.
Weird children, I'm listening to you.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
the planet.
But it's just like, it's science that'll make you chuckle and make you smile. It's free, and I see all this great science, and I just want to share it with people, and this has become a really great way to do that.
And I don't think everyone knows that you are a bat nerd.
Yeah.
Like, your entire
You have a
thing.
PhD in
PhD.
You really are the
batology.
Batman.
Well, don't tell people, because I have to fight crime. But yeah, and the Bat Signal, I thought it was a cool, like, I think of Batman, who's always, fighting crime, and it's hard to know. There's so many bad guys, and who do you fight? But then Commissioner Gordon puts up this big light and says, here's what's important, Batman. You need to do this. So in this scenario, it's like telling people, like, here's the science you need to know about that really matters. So
Love that.
I'm not the Batman. The reader is the Batman.
Oh,
Company
Dan.
discount.
Well, we love having you, the Batman, here with us
very
always.
kind.
Thank you
You
so
can
much for
mansplain
joining
us
us.
anytime.
Absolutely.
please.
Absolutely.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.